The fading light. The night on the outer rim of the Galactic trading hub was quiet. Only the faint hum of broken neon lights outside gave life to the street. Inside a small, dusty workshop, a human mechanic named Ethan worked late. His hands were black with grease, his shirt torn at the sleeves, but his eyes showed the patience of a man who had spent years fixing machines nobody else cared about. The workshop was filled with old starship parts, broken droids and half-repaired hoverbikes. For Ethan, this place was more than a shop, it was his world. He had no family, no friends close by. The machines were his only company, and the silence was his comfort. But tonight that silence was about to break. Suddenly, the old metallic door of the workshop slammed open. Ethan jumped, his wrench slipping from his hand and clattering against the floor. A tall, thin figure stumbled inside, her breathing ragged, her steps heavy. It was an alien woman. Her skin glowed faintly blue under the weak workshop lights, and her long silver hair was tangled with dust and blood. In her trembling arms she held a small bundle wrapped in faded cloth. "Help, please," she whispered, her voice weak, almost breaking. Her knees gave way and she collapsed on the cold floor. The bundle slipped slightly and Ethan saw the face of a baby. Its skin pale with a strange, soft shimmer, its eyes wide open, glowing faintly like twin stars. Ethan rushed forward, his instincts pushing him faster than his thoughts. He knelt beside the woman, lifting her carefully. She was cold, her body shaking with exhaustion. Her eyes filled with tears locked on his. "Save her," the alien mother gasped. "They will come for her." Her lips trembled as she coughed, leaving faint blue stains on Ethan's shirt. Ethan looked at the baby, then back at the mother. He was only a mechanic. He had no weapon, no power, no knowledge of who they were. His life had always been simple. Machines broke, he fixed them. But now a dying mother was placing a life in his hands. The baby cried, the sound sharp and strange, not like any human child. As the wail echoed through the workshop, faint lights flickered across the walls as if responding to the baby's voice. Ethan's eyes widened. Something was unusual about this child. The mother's hand shook as she reached for a pendant around her neck. It glowed faintly with strange markings. With trembling fingers, she pressed it into Ethan's palm. "For her, promise me." Her eyes filled with tears as her voice faded. Ethan tried to speak, but before he could, she slumped completely, her chest rising slower and slower. Panic rushed through him. He shook her gently, calling out, but the glow in her skin dimmed with every second. The baby's small hand reached out, touching Ethan's arm. A warmth spread through him, almost calming, but the fear in his heart only grew. Then came the sound, heavy footsteps outside. Metallic boots clanking on the street. Harsh voices speaking in a language Ethan did not understand. Shadows moved across the cracks of the door. Whoever they were, they had already found the trail. Ethan's heart pounded. He glanced at the lifeless alien mother, then at the glowing baby staring up at him with strange, star-like eyes. He felt trapped between choices he never asked for. He could run, pretend this never happened, and maybe live another quiet day. Or he could do what the mother begged, protect the child. The footsteps grew louder. A sharp bang hit the door. Dust fell from the ceiling. The baby whimpered softly, sensing the danger. Ethan swallowed hard, his hands trembling. He picked up the baby, holding it close to his chest. "I don't know who you are," he whispered, "but I won't let them take you." The door shook again, harder this time. A metallic voice shouted from outside, "Hand over the child." Ethan froze, his mind racing. He had no weapon, but he had his machines. He glanced around the workshop, his eyes falling on the tool chest, the scrap parts, the hidden vents. Maybe, just maybe, he could hide the child and stall them. He quickly placed the baby inside the tool chest, leaving just enough space for air, and covered it with a blanket. The baby looked up at him, still glowing faintly as if trusting him. The banging grew violent. The door lock cracked under the force. Ethan grabbed his wrench, the only weapon he had, and stood ready. His heart thundered in his chest, his mind screaming at him to run, but he didn't move. The lock broke. The door slammed open. Shadows filled the room, and in that moment, as Ethan gripped his wrench and stood in front of the hidden child, he realized his quiet life as a mechanic was over. The baby's secret, the workshop filled with the sound of heavy boots. The intruders stepped inside, their shadows stretching long under the dim lights. Ethan held his wrench tightly, his palms sweating. His heart raced, but his mind was sharp. He had hidden the baby in the tool chest, yet the faint glow from the child still flickered across the edges of the room. He prayed they wouldn't notice. 3 tall figures entered. Their armor was dark, covered in scratches from many battles. Their helmets hid their faces, but their voices were cold and mechanical. One of them stepped forward, scanning the room with glowing red eyes. "The child is here," the soldier said in a low growl. "We can sense it. Do not resist, human." Ethan's throat went dry. He forced himself to stand his ground. "There's no child here," he said quickly, trying to sound calm. "This is just a mechanic's shop. Broken parts, broken ships. Nothing worth your time." The soldier tilted his head, almost amused. Another walked over to the alien mother's lifeless body. He knelt, checking her pulse, then stood. "She is dead. But the offspring lives. Hand it over and you may live." Ethan's grip on his wrench tightened. He felt anger rise inside him. This woman had run here, desperate and terrified, and in her last breath she trusted him. Now these men wanted to take her child. Ethan knew he was no soldier, no hero. But in that moment, something deep inside told him he couldn't surrender. He took a slow breath and spoke firmly. "I told you. There's no baby here." The leader stepped closer, his heavy armor clanking. "Do not lie. We are trackers. The child emits energy, strong energy. If you protect it, you will die with it." At that exact moment, a soft sound echoed. A whimper. The baby hidden in the tool chest had let out a small cry. Ethan's stomach dropped. The soldiers turned their heads toward the sound. Ethan acted fast. He threw the wrench at a control switch on the wall. Sparks exploded and the lights flickered out. The workshop plunged into darkness. In the sudden confusion, Ethan grabbed the chest and pulled it behind a pile of scrap metal. He crouched low, his heart pounding like a drum. The baby's eyes glowed faintly in the dark, 2 tiny stars looking up at him. Ethan whispered, "Quiet now. Please." The soldiers activated small red lights on their helmets, scanning the workshop. "Find the child," one barked. They began overturning tables, kicking aside tools, searching every corner. Ethan's mind raced. He needed time, he needed a plan. The baby squirmed softly, and as its little hand touched his arm, something incredible happened. A wave of warmth surged through him. His fear lessened, replaced with a strange calm. Then he noticed it, symbols glowing faintly on the baby's skin, the same ones on the pendant the mother had given him. The markings pulsed with light, then spread outward. For a moment, Ethan could see through the dark. Shapes of the soldiers moving, their outlines sharp and clear. The baby was giving him sight, guiding him. Ethan gasped softly. This child, it wasn't ordinary. It carried a secret, a power far beyond his understanding. But the gift faded quickly, leaving him in darkness again. He realized the baby was not just helpless. It was also dangerous, or at least valuable enough for others to kill for. The soldiers grew closer. One of them stopped near the scrap pile, his boots inches from Ethan's hiding place. Ethan's muscles tensed. If they looked down, they would see him. The soldier bent, lifting a metal sheet. His helmet lights shined dangerously close. The baby whimpered again. Ethan held his breath, ready to fight, ready to die if he had to. Then from outside, a loud alarm echoed across the street. A patrol droid passed by, its siren blaring as it searched for troublemakers. The soldiers froze, exchanging glances. We cannot be seen here, one muttered. The leader hissed. We return tomorrow. The child cannot hide forever. With that, they retreated quickly, vanishing into the night. The workshop grew quiet again. Ethan exhaled deeply, his body trembling. He opened the chest and lifted the baby gently. The child looked at him with glowing eyes, innocent yet full of something ancient. Ethan sat on the cold floor, holding the baby close. What are you? He whispered. And why do they want you so badly? The baby reached for the pendant still clutched in his hand. As it touched the glowing stone, a faint hum filled the room. The pendant's markings matched the child's skin, glowing together in rhythm as if connected. Ethan's eyes widened. It wasn't just a necklace. It was a key. But a key to what? Before he could think further, he heard distant voices again. The soldiers hadn't gone far. They would be back, and next time they wouldn't leave without blood. Ethan stood, determination filling him. His quiet life as a mechanic was gone. Now, he had become the protector of a secret, one that might change the fate of more than just a single child. As the baby's eyes glowed brighter in the dim light, Ethan whispered to himself. All right then. If they want you, they'll have to get through me first. And somewhere deep inside he knew this was only the beginning. Shadows at the door. The night grew heavier, pressing against the walls of Ethan's workshop. The neon lights outside flickered weakly, painting broken colors across the cracked windows. Ethan sat on the floor with the glowing baby in his arms. The alien mother's body lay nearby, silent and cold. The weight of her last words still echoed in his mind. Protect her. They will come. And they had already come. He had seen them. 3 armored hunters with voices like machines. If not for the alarm outside, they would have found the baby. Ethan knew they would return. They wouldn't stop until they had the child. He stood, his muscles stiff from fear and exhaustion, and carefully placed the baby on a padded workbench. The child blinked at him, its star-like eyes calm, almost trusting. Ethan felt something stir inside him, a mix of fear and strange duty. He had never been a father. He had never even held a baby until now. Yet somehow this tiny being made him feel like he had a purpose. Still, he could not ignore the danger. He looked around his workshop, cluttered with broken engines, half-finished drones, and rusted weapons no longer fit for use. If the hunters returned, he would need more than courage. He would need traps, tools, and cleverness. He was only a mechanic, but he knew machines better than anyone. As he started gathering tools, a faint knock echoed at the door. Ethan froze. His heart skipped. The knock was soft, not like the violent pounding from before. He reached for a wrench and moved slowly toward the door. Open up, a voice whispered. It was shaky, human-sounding, almost desperate. Please, I know you're in there. Ethan's first thought was that it was a trick. The hunters could be disguising their voices. He kept silent, holding his breath. The voice came again, weaker this time. Please, they'll kill me too. I saw what happened. I just want safety. Ethan hesitated. He glanced at the baby, who stared back with those glowing eyes as if sensing the truth. Against his better judgment, he unlocked the smaller latch and cracked the door open. A thin man slipped inside, wearing ragged clothes and carrying a bag on his back. His face was pale with fear, sweat dripping down his brow. Ethan stepped back, tightening his grip on the wrench. Who are you? Ethan demanded. The man raised his hands quickly. Name's Caro. I saw the hunters outside. I saw them break in here. I thought you'd be dead by now, but you're not. His eyes darted around the shop nervously. I need a place to hide. Ethan studied him carefully. Something about Caro felt wrong. His eyes kept shifting, his hands twitching like a man hiding secrets. But for now, Ethan stayed silent and pointed him toward the far corner. You stay there. Don't move, Ethan ordered. Caro nodded quickly, but his gaze soon fell on the baby lying on the workbench. His eyes widened. By the stars. That's it, isn't it? The child. Ethan's chest tightened. You stay away, he warned, stepping between Caro and the child. But Caro smiled nervously. You don't understand. That child is worth more than you can imagine. The Syndicate, they've been hunting it for months. There's a bounty so high you could buy your own moon if you handed it over. Ethan felt his blood run cold. The Syndicate, he had heard of them, an interstellar network of criminals who ruled the shadows of the galaxy. If they wanted the child, it meant trouble far greater than he imagined. Caro stepped closer, his voice dropping low. I can help you. I know ways off this planet. I know smugglers who'd pay to move something like this. Think about it. You're just a mechanic. What can you do against them? Ethan's grip on the wrench tightened. He saw the greed in Caro's eyes. This wasn't a plea for safety. It was a game. Caro wanted the baby. Maybe not for himself, but for the bounty. Before Ethan could answer, the workshop lights flickered again. A shadow passed across the window. Heavy footsteps echoed outside. The hunters had returned. Ethan's heart pounded. He whispered sharply to Caro, "Stay quiet." But Caro's face twisted with panic. He grabbed his bag and started moving toward the baby. Ethan stepped forward and shoved him back. I said, don't touch her. Caro stumbled, glaring at Ethan, but before he could respond, the door rattled violently. The same metallic voice roared, "Hand over the child, human. This is your last chance." Ethan quickly pulled the baby close to his chest. He could feel the faint hum of power in her small body. She whimpered softly, glowing brighter in the dim room. The hunters outside slammed the door again, the hinges creaking under the force. Ethan looked around desperately. He had minutes, maybe seconds, before they broke through. Caro hissed in fear, hiding behind a pile of parts. Ethan ignored him. His eyes darted to the workshop vents, to the half-built hoverbike, to the old fuel tanks in the corner. An idea began to form. If he couldn't fight them directly, maybe he could trap them. The door cracked, sparks flying as the lock tore apart. Ethan whispered to the baby, "Stay with me. I won't let them take you." The shadows loomed larger as the door began to give way. The hunters were almost inside. Ethan tightened his grip on the wrench, sweat dripping down his face. This was no longer just about survival. It was about protecting a secret that could change everything. And as the door finally shattered, filling the workshop with armored figures, Ethan knew one thing for certain: his quiet life was gone forever. The mother's final message. The door finally crashed open, splintering under the strength of the armored hunters. Ethan's workshop shook as the heavy figures entered, their red helmet lights cutting through the shadows like blades. Ethan gripped the glowing baby tightly, his heart pounding like a war drum. Caro cowered in the corner, his greedy eyes darting between the child and the soldiers, unsure of which side to choose. The leader raised his weapon, its energy core humming with deadly power. "Human," the metallic voice growled. "This is the end. Hand over the child or you will die where you stand." Ethan swallowed hard. He had nothing but a wrench, a handful of tools, and his stubborn will. His eyes flicked to the pendant still clutched in his hand, the necklace the alien mother had pressed into his palm before she died. Its strange symbols shimmered faintly, almost pulsing in rhythm with the baby's glow. Something inside told him it wasn't just jewelry. It was important. It was meant for this moment. He raised it, not fully knowing why. The pendant warmed in his palm, then lit up brightly. A wave of light burst into the room, so strong the hunters staggered back a step. The glow expanded into a shimmering figure, an image soft and flickering like a hologram. Ethan gasped. It was her, the alien mother. She looked alive again, her silver hair flowing, her blue skin glowing gently. Her voice was calm yet carried urgency. "If you are seeing this," the projection said, her eyes locking onto Ethan, "then I am gone. And you, human, have been chosen." The hunters froze, their weapons lowering slightly as they watched. Caro's mouth hung open in shock. Ethan felt the baby stir in his arms, her small hand reaching toward the light of her mother. The projection continued. "My child is not ordinary. She carries the legacy of my people. Within her blood lies the secret to restoring what was lost, the power that the Syndicate fears and the reason they hunt her." Ethan's chest tightened. He didn't understand fully, but he could feel the weight of her words. "I searched for someone who could protect her," the hologram said, her tearful eyes softening. "Not a soldier, not a king, but someone ordinary, someone with a good heart who would fight not for power but for life." Her gaze fixed directly on Ethan as if she were truly there. He felt the weight of her trust crush against his chest. He wasn't a warrior. He wasn't special. He was just a mechanic. Yet she was telling him he was the one. The leader of the hunters growled, "End this trick." He raised his weapon again, stepping forward. But the projection turned toward him, her voice sharp. "You will never have her," she said, her tone filled with fire. "The child belongs to the stars, not your chains." The pendant pulsed, sending out another wave of energy that knocked the hunters back. Their armor sparked as if short-circuited. They stumbled, their weapons faltering. Ethan's eyes widened. The pendant was a shield, a weapon, and a message all in one. The mother's voice softened again as she looked back to him. "Protect her, Ethan. Take her to the coordinates hidden within the pendant. There you will find allies. There she will be safe." The light began to fade, her image flickering. "Promise me." Her voice trembled as her final words echoed. "Promise me you will not fail her." Ethan felt his throat tighten. He whispered almost without thinking, "I promise." The hologram vanished, leaving only the glowing pendant in his palm. The workshop fell silent for a heartbeat, the hunters regaining their balance, their rage burning brighter now. "You dare defy us, human?" the leader roared. "You think you can stand against the Syndicate?" Ethan held the baby close, tucking the pendant into his pocket. He straightened his back, his fear slowly turning into determination. "I don't care who you are," he said firmly. "You're not taking her." Caro groaned from the corner, his cowardice spilling into words. "Ethan, listen to them." "You can't fight them. Just hand the child over. Take the money and live." Ethan turned on him with fire in his eyes. Money, that's all you care about? This isn't about credits, it's about life. About trust. He stepped closer to Caro, his voice cutting like steel. Her mother died trusting me, and I won't betray that. The baby glowed brighter as if agreeing with him. Her eyes reflected tiny stars, her little hand clutching his shirt. Ethan felt her warmth steady him, filling him with a strength he never knew he had. The hunters raised their weapons again, but Ethan was ready. He darted toward his workbench, slamming a button on the wall. The old fuel tanks he had rigged earlier hissed loudly, releasing a cloud of gas. Sparks from the broken wires lit the fumes, and a burst of flame roared through the room. The hunters staggered back again, their armor scorching. Ethan used the chaos to grab the hoverbike frame he had been working on. With one hand holding the child and the other guiding the machine, he pushed it toward the hidden back door. Caro shouted, "You'll die for this!" But Ethan didn't stop. He slammed the door shut behind him, leaving the hunters coughing in the smoke and Caro's voice fading into the chaos. The cold night air hit his face as he stumbled into the alley, the baby safe in his arms. He looked down at her glowing eyes, then at the pendant in his pocket. The mother's final message burned in his mind. Take her to the coordinates. Find the allies. Ethan whispered, his voice steady with new purpose. Don't worry, little one. I promised her, and I'll keep that promise. And for the first time in years, the lonely mechanic felt alive, not because of machines, not because of survival, but because of a mission larger than himself. The relentless hunters. The night outside the workshop was cold, the alley filled with smoke and the faint echo of alarms. Ethan clutched the baby tightly as he hurried into the shadows. The pendant in his pocket pulsed faintly, guiding him with a rhythm that almost felt alive. The child's soft glow lit his way, but it also made hiding harder. Every shadow could be an enemy. Every sound made him flinch. Behind him, the workshop burned. The hunters had survived the blast, and their mechanical voices carried through the night. Find him. Find the child. Do not let them escape. Ethan's pulse quickened. He was no soldier, but he understood machines, and these hunters moved like machines. They wouldn't tire. They wouldn't stop. They were designed for one thing: relentless pursuit. He darted down narrow alleys past piles of rusted metal and flickering neon signs, his boots echoing on the cracked pavement. He whispered to the baby, "Just a little longer. I'll keep you safe." The child whimpered softly, then quieted as if sensing his fear. But the hunters were already closing in. Their heavy boots slammed against the ground, their red helmet lights sweeping across the dark alleys. Ethan spotted one in the distance, its armored frame glinting under the neon. He ducked into a side passage, holding his breath. He knew he couldn't keep running forever. The baby needed safety. The mother's message replayed in his mind, the coordinates. Allies, but he had no ship, no transport. Only his tools and his stubborn will. He slipped into an abandoned docking bay, once used for small cargo ships, but now filled with dust and silence. Broken shuttles sat like skeletons, their wings bent and engines stripped. Ethan found a corner behind a large crate and crouched down, holding the baby close. For a moment there was quiet. He could hear his own heartbeat pounding in his ears. Then faintly a sound, the crunch of armored boots against gravel. The hunters had followed. Ethan's mind raced. He needed to think like a mechanic, not a fighter. He spotted a half-broken maintenance droid slumped against the wall. Its power core still flickered faintly. He quickly dug into his bag, pulling out wires and a small energy cell he always carried. With shaky hands, he connected the cell to the droid. The machine sparked, its single eye lighting up. Ethan whispered, "Go, make noise." He tapped the droid's head and it rolled forward, clanking noisily toward the far end of the bay. The hunters reacted instantly. Movement detected. One barked, their red light swinging toward the droid. They opened fire, bolts of energy blasting into the shadows. The droid sparked and collapsed, but the distraction bought Ethan a few precious seconds. He moved quickly, slipping deeper into the docking bay. The baby pressed against his chest, her small hand gripping his shirt. Suddenly he felt a wave of warmth spread through him. For a brief moment the pendant glowed and his vision sharpened. He could see the hunter's heat signatures through the walls, glowing red shapes moving methodically. The baby was sharing her power with him again. Ethan used the vision to navigate silently around the hunters, weaving through the broken ships. But the glow faded as quickly as it came, leaving him blind again. His breath came fast, but he didn't stop. Then a voice rang out behind him. "You cannot run forever, human." The leader's metallic growl echoed through the bay. "The child is not yours. Give it to us and your suffering ends." Ethan turned, holding the baby tighter. His voice shook, but he forced the words out. "You'll have to kill me first." The leader stepped forward, his armor gleaming, weapon raised. The other hunters spread out, surrounding him, trapped. No way out. Ethan's mind raced. He spotted an old fuel tank lying on its side, cracked but still half full. He had one chance. He pulled a small plasma cutter from his belt, his favorite tool, now his last hope. As the hunters closed in, he aimed the cutter at the fuel tank and ignited it. A stream of sparks hit the metal, and the tank exploded with a roar. Fire ripped through the bay, knocking the hunters back. Ethan shielded the baby with his body, the heat burning his skin but leaving them alive. He stumbled to his feet, coughing from the smoke, and ran through a side exit. Behind him, the hunters roared in frustration, but even fire would not stop them for long. Ethan emerged onto the empty streets of the hub. His chest ached, his legs heavy, but he didn't stop. The pendant pulsed again, stronger now, pulling him toward the old starport at the edge of the city. As he moved, he realized the truth. These hunters would never stop. They were bound to the Syndicate, and the Syndicate's reach stretched across worlds. The child was not just a baby, it was a key, a beacon, and they would chase it to the ends of the galaxy. Ethan whispered to the little one, "I don't know why your mother chose me, but I won't fail you." The baby looked up at him with glowing eyes, her tiny fingers brushing his cheek. For the first time in years, Ethan felt more than fear. He felt resolve. In the distance, alarms wailed and ships roared overhead. The hunt had only begun. The Syndicate would send more, stronger, faster. But Ethan knew one thing: he would not give up. The hunters were relentless. But so was his promise. The human's choice. The city's edge was quiet, almost abandoned as Ethan staggered into the shadows of the old starport. Rusted ships rested in silence, their broken hulls covered in dust and moss. The faint glow of the baby lit his path as he slipped between the dead ships, searching for cover. His body ached from smoke and fire, but he kept moving. The baby whimpered softly, and Ethan pressed her close. I know, he whispered. "You're tired. So am I, but we can't stop. Not yet." Behind him in the distance, he could still hear the hunters' metallic roars echoing. They weren't dead. They would rise again, follow again. He knew their type, machines of flesh and steel that never rested, never stopped. Ethan found an old cargo bay and ducked inside. He placed the baby on a padded coil of cloth, then collapsed against the wall, his chest heaving. For the first time since the chaos began, he let himself think. He wasn't a fighter. He wasn't a soldier. He was just a mechanic who fixed things for credits barely enough to eat. And yet here he was, holding the fate of a child, and maybe more. His eyes drifted to the pendant, still glowing faintly in his pocket. The mother's final message replayed in his memory. "Protect her. Take her to the coordinates. Find the allies." Ethan closed his eyes, whispering to himself, "I should leave her. She's not mine. She's not my fight." But when he looked at the baby again, her glowing eyes staring back at him, innocent and trusting, something inside broke. He saw himself alone, abandoned, unwanted. He remembered being a child with no one to care for him, no one to fight for him. He had promised himself long ago he would never care for anyone again. Yet here he was. The baby's small hand reached toward him, brushing his rough fingers. A warmth spread through him again, not from the pendant, but from her. And in that moment, his choice was clear. He couldn't abandon her. Not to the Syndicate. Not to monsters who saw her as nothing but a weapon. Ethan whispered, his voice trembling but firm. "I'll protect you, no matter what it costs." The child cooed softly, her glow brightening almost as if she understood. But even as Ethan made his choice, the sound of boots returned, heavy, mechanical, echoing through the cargo bay. The hunters had tracked him again. Ethan's heart raced. He scanned the room. He had no weapons, no escape routes, just broken ships and tools. But he was a mechanic, and mechanics didn't give up. They fixed problems. They made solutions. Quickly, he pulled the baby close and whispered, "Stay quiet." Then he placed her inside a hollow panel of a broken shuttle, wrapping her in cloth to keep her hidden. He touched her cheek gently. "I'll come back. I promise." He turned as the door slammed open. The hunters entered, their red lights scanning the bay. The leader stepped forward, his voice like thunder. You cannot run, human. You have no allies. You have no power. Hand her over and perhaps you will live a little longer. Ethan stood tall, though his knees shook. She's not yours. And she never will be. The hunters spread out, weapons humming with deadly energy. Ethan's mind raced. His eyes fell on a fuel line snaking across the floor, still connected to the remains of a cargo shuttle. Slowly he stepped back, leading them toward it. The leader noticed and snarled, "Do not resist." But Ethan only smirked. For once he wasn't thinking like prey, he was thinking like a mechanic. He kicked a loose panel, sending sparks across the leaking fuel. Flames roared up instantly, blocking the hunter's path. The baby stirred in the shuttle panel, but Ethan kept his focus. The hunters struggled through the fire, their armor sparking, but they pushed forward. Ethan grabbed a heavy tool, a plasma torch, and swung it like a weapon. Sparks flew as it clashed against the hunter's blade. He stumbled, barely standing, but his will burned bright. The leader raised his weapon to strike, and Ethan thought it was the end. But then a sudden surge of energy filled the room. The baby, glowing brighter than ever, had activated the pendant through her cries. Symbols flared across the walls, and a barrier of light burst outward, knocking the hunters back. Ethan shielded his eyes, stunned by the power. The child's glow dimmed again, but the hunters lay stunned, their armor cracked. It wouldn't hold them forever, but it was enough. Ethan rushed to the baby, lifting her gently. "You saved me," he whispered, his voice filled with awe. "But you can't keep doing this alone. We'll do it together, I promise." He glanced back at the hunters struggling to rise. He had a choice: run now and keep running forever, or take the mother's message seriously and follow the coordinates. The pendant pulsed again, as if urging him forward. Ethan took a deep breath, clutching the baby close. "No more hiding. No more running. We go to where she wanted me to go. To your people. To the Allies." His fear didn't vanish, but it no longer controlled him. He had made his choice. And as he slipped into the shadows of the starport, the hunters' voices roared behind him, furious and unyielding. But Ethan only whispered to the child in his arms, "They'll chase us. They'll hunt us. But I won't give you up. Not now. Not ever." Shock beyond imagination. The night sky above the old starport burned with the glow of ships coming and going, their engines leaving streaks of light in the darkness. Ethan ran through the shadows, the baby pressed close to his chest. His legs ached, his lungs burned, but he did not stop. The pendant in his pocket pulsed faster now, guiding him like a heartbeat. Behind him, the hunters closed in once more. Their heavy boots shook the ground. Their red lights cut through the smoke. They were relentless, their voices echoing like iron. "Human, you cannot escape. The child belongs to us." Ethan gritted his teeth, whispering to the baby, "Not while I breathe." He followed the pendant's pull, weaving through broken ships and rusted hangars until he reached a dead end, an abandoned launch pad. The cracked concrete stretched wide under the stars, but no ships waited there. Only silence. Ethan's chest tightened. The pendant glowed brightly, as if insisting this was the place. But where were the Allies? Where was the safety the mother had promised? The hunters emerged from the shadows, their weapons raised. Flames from the earlier battle reflected off their armor, making them look like demons of steel. The leader stepped forward, pointing a blade straight at Ethan. "This is the end," the metallic voice growled. "You will die, and the child will be ours." Ethan's hand shook, but he held the baby tighter. His mind screamed to run, but there was nowhere left. For a brief moment he thought it was over. Then the baby began to glow, brighter than ever before. Her small body radiated a light so powerful it lit the entire launch pad. Ethan shielded his eyes, his heart racing. The pendant in his pocket blazed, the symbols burning like fire. The hunters staggered, their weapons faltering. The baby's cry pierced the air, and suddenly the ground trembled. From beneath the cracked launch pad, ancient machinery stirred. Panels shifted, engines rumbled, and a massive platform began to rise. Ethan stumbled back, staring in shock as a hidden ship, sleek and silver, emerged from the ground. Its hull glowed with the same symbols as the pendant. The hunters roared in fury. "Seize them now!" They charged, weapons firing. Bolts of energy scorched the air. Ethan ducked, clutching the child and sprinting toward the rising ship. His legs burned, but adrenaline pushed him forward. He dove onto the ramp as it extended, rolling across the metal floor with the baby safe in his arms. The ship's systems came alive, lights flaring and engines roaring. The baby's glow seemed to merge with the ship itself, as if she was the key that awakened it. Ethan staggered to his feet and rushed to the cockpit. The controls lit up with alien symbols impossible for any human to read, yet somehow, the pendant in his pocket projected faint translations, guiding his hands. The hunters leapt onto the ramp, their claws scraping the metal. The leader roared, slashing with his blade, sparks flying as it struck the ship's hull. Ethan slammed the launch controls. Engines ignited with a thunderous roar. The ramp retracted, throwing the hunters back into the dust. The ship lifted, breaking free from the ground, flames blazing beneath it. Ethan clutched the baby to his chest, his heart racing as the starport fell away beneath them. But the hunters weren't finished. From the city below, syndicate ships launched, their sleek black frames rising into the sky. Red lights glared as they locked onto Ethan's ship. Missiles streaked through the night. Ethan swerved clumsily, gripping the controls. The pendant glowed, guiding his hands, helping him dodge each blast. The baby cooed softly, as if calming him. Still, the syndicate ships were fast, relentless. They surrounded him, their weapons charging for the kill. Ethan's mind screamed, "I can't do this. I'm no pilot. I'm no hero." But then the pendant pulsed one last time and a voice filled the cockpit. It was the alien mother's voice, soft and strong. "You are not alone, Ethan. Trust her. Trust yourself." At that moment, the baby's glow flared brighter than the stars. Energy surged through the ship, powering weapons Ethan hadn't even touched. Blinding beams of light shot out, striking the syndicate ships with precision. One by one, they exploded, falling like burning meteors back to the ground. Ethan stared in shock. The baby, this tiny child, had unleashed a power greater than anything he had ever seen. She wasn't just a secret. She was a weapon. Or perhaps something even more. The last enemy ship fell and the sky grew quiet. Ethan sat back, trembling, the baby nestled against his chest. He looked down at her glowing eyes and whispered, "What are you?" The pendant projected a final set of coordinates on the screen, leading far beyond the hub into uncharted space. "Allies," the mother had said. "Safety maybe answers." But as Ethan steered the ship toward the stars, another voice crackled faintly through the comms, deep, commanding, and filled with menace. "So, the human has the child. Interesting." A pause, then a dark laugh. "He doesn't know who he really is," Ethan froze. The voice wasn't just hunting the baby. It was hunting him, too. The ship soared into the night, leaving the syndicate ruins behind. Ethan held the baby close, his mind heavy with fear and wonder. He had saved her, yes, but now he carried not just her fate, but a mystery about himself he could no longer ignore. For in that moment, Ethan realized the truth. The greatest shock wasn't the child's power. It was that he might not be just human after all.